I started cooking early that morning. The house still smelled like cinnamon and poultry stock by the time the sun dipped below the pines. I had roasted the turkey slow just the way Mom used to when I was a kid, stuffing from scratch. Apple pie, too, her favorite, the one with the braided crust. Rachel, my younger sister, offered to help, but mostly hovered by the sink, drying the same glass twice. I could tell she was anxious. She always gets quiet before things fall apart. Mom Darlene Blake, 63, silver hair always set tight in curlers, stayed planted in front of the TV until it was time to eat. She walked to the table with her wine, not bothering to comment on the spread. Not even a "looks nice, Susan." Still, I tried. I set the table with the old snowflake plates. I poured drinks. For the first time in years, I let myself believe maybe we could have one peaceful night. Maybe she'd see what I was trying to do. We sat. Rachel filled her plate. I passed the rolls. And for a few minutes, the clink of forks and low jazz in the background made the kitchen feel like home. Then, as casually as if she were commenting on the weather, Mom said mid-chew, "Susan, I think it's time you moved out. I thought I misheard." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. I glanced at Rachel, her eyes went wide. I set the fork down, kept my voice even. "I pay the rent, I pay the bills. I buy the groceries. You haven't worked in 5 years. Mom didn't flinch. She took a sip of wine, eyes on her plate. "I just need space back, that's all." Like I'd been squatting in the home I've been holding up by my fingertips. No one said anything, not even Rachel. I don't remember the rest of that meal, just the way the candlelight flickered against her glass and how small I suddenly felt in a house I thought was mine, too. I moved back in the year Mom lost her job at the clinic. She said it would be for a little while, just until she got back on her feet. I still had my apartment back then, a quiet one-bedroom with carpet that never quite vacuumed clean, but it was mine. Still, I packed my things and came home thinking I'd be there for maybe 6 months. That was nearly 5 years ago. At first I didn't mind. I could work remotely. I had a steady job in IT, good health insurance. I paid the mortgage to keep us afloat, then the utilities, then the groceries. It wasn't even a conversation. We both just let the arrangement expand until it filled every corner. I paid for her medications, for Netflix. I bought the new router when she said the Wi-Fi was unbearable. I told myself it was what daughters do. The first time she snapped it was about the sink. One bowl left from lunch, and suddenly she was sighing loud enough for the neighbors. Then came the digs. Some people don't understand how to respect a shared space, followed by silence that lasted for days. Other times it was the sound of me laughing during a late-night call with a friend. "Your voice carries," she'd say, her mouth tight. Or if the mail was late or the garbage hadn't gone out, somehow it looped back to me. I kept brushing it off. She's going through something, I told myself. She raised me. She gave me everything when I was small, homemade lunches, rides to piano practice, the long talks on the porch after my first heartbreak. That version of her felt like someone I still owed something to. So I kept paying. I kept quiet. I let her tell our relatives that I was staying for a bit while job searching, even though I never stopped working. I let her have her version of things. But bit by bit, it started to wear. I began feeling like a guest in the house I was financing, like I had to knock before entering the kitchen, like my presence was something she tolerated, not something she leaned on. And still, I stayed. Because part of me thought if I just held on a little longer, she'd see it. She'd see me. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in the sweater I wore to dinner, watching the shadows shift across the ceiling. The house creaked like it always did in winter pipes, settling old wood, groaning, but this time it felt different, quieter somehow, colder. She didn't knock. Didn't come down the hall to ask if I was okay. No, she'd gone to bed with her wine-glass half-full door closed behind her. So I packed, not with rage, not with sadness, just with a kind of quiet I didn't know I had in me. A small suitcase, laptop, a few changes of clothes, toothbrush, charger. I stood in my room for a long time before turning off the light. There wasn't a plan. I hadn't made calls or checked listings. I just knew I couldn't wake up in that house one more day pretending we were still family. When morning came, I waited until I heard her snore through the wall, deep, heavy, and then I opened the front door slow enough not to let it creak. No goodbye. No letter on the counter. Just one last glance at the kitchen table where the pie still sat untouched. I pulled the door closed behind me, careful not to let it slam. Outside, the sky was gray. The cold bit at my throat as I stepped off the porch with nothing but my suitcase and the sound of wet leaves underfoot. I told myself maybe she'd call. Maybe she'd ask where I was, ask if I had somewhere to stay. But as I reached the street and kept walking, that hope shrank with every step. Mason didn't ask questions when I showed up at his door with a suitcase. He just stepped aside, pointed toward the couch, and said, "Blankets are in the hall closet. Bathroom's still broken, so jiggle the handle." I hadn't seen him in months. We used to work together, same office, different teams, but we kept in touch. He always had this way of making silence feel like company, not pressure. His place was small, mismatched mugs, a dent in the fridge door, carpet that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. But it was warm and still. I lay on the couch that night, wrapped in a faded comforter, and listened to the hum of the radiator. No footsteps above me, no tense quiet from the hallway. I cried for a few minutes. Not because I missed her. I wasn't even sure I did, but because my body didn't know how else to react to stillness. The next morning, Mason handed me a mug of black coffee and a set of spare keys. "Stay as long as you need," he said. It took 3 days to find a studio apartment on the edge of town. The building was old, but the floors were clean and the windows opened. No one gave me a look if I played music after 10. I bought a second-hand couch, a tiny folding table, a coffee maker on clearance, and for the first time in years, I made dinner just for myself. I didn't apologize for the smell of garlic. I didn't eat with one ear tuned for footsteps or sighs. The quiet was strange. At first, I kept expecting it to snap like someone would barge in, ask why I was acting so free. But no one came. And slowly I started to like the quiet. It was a Thursday night when Rachel texted, "You won't believe what Mom's been saying." I was halfway through folding laundry on the floor of my new apartment, clean socks in one pile, the shirt I slept in every night still warm from the dryer. I stared at her message thumb hovering over the screen. I called her. She picked up fast, like she'd been waiting. Her voice was low. "Careful. She's telling everyone you screamed at her during dinner, that you cursed at her, stormed out, left her alone on Christmas. Said you've always been selfish, that you used her." I didn't say anything. Aunt Marilyn called to say she's bringing meals over this week. Said she couldn't imagine how hard this must be for Mom. My stomach dropped. Not from surprise, because part of me always knew something like this was coming, but from how easily it was happening. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't even cried. I packed my bags and walked out while she was asleep. That was the truth. But truth doesn't always travel as fast as pity. By Saturday, Uncle Tom had unfollowed me on Instagram. I noticed I was gone from the family group chat. No message, no explanation. Just gone. I kept replaying that dinner in my head, her voice flat, her eyes not even meeting mine. And now, somehow, I was the villain in a story I hadn't even been told. I thought about calling my aunts, sending a long message, explaining what really happened. But every draft I typed felt defensive, desperate. Then something inside me shifted. I didn't want to beg for belief. I wanted to tell the truth not to her, not even to them, but to the version of me that kept asking, did I imagine all this? So I opened my notes app. And I started to write. It took me 3 days to write the post. I started and stopped a dozen times. I wasn't trying to be clever. I wasn't trying to make her look bad. I just wanted to say what happened without yelling, without tears. For the past 5 years, I've paid the rent, utilities, groceries. I've supported my mom so she could stay in her home. I never asked for anything back. Not rent, not recognition, not even a thank you. On Christmas night, after I cooked dinner and set the table and tried to believe maybe we could feel like family again, she told me to move out. I didn't scream. I didn't slam doors. I left quietly the next morning. I only share this now because I've heard the story going around. And it's not true. I'm not asking anyone to pick sides. I just needed the truth to exist somewhere outside of me. That's how I ended it. Nothing poetic, just the truth. I didn't tag anyone, didn't add photos. I hit post, set my phone face down, and went to do the dishes. I didn't check it again for the rest of the day. Not because I wasn't curious, I was terrified. What if no one believed me? What if they did but didn't care? That night I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Maybe I should have kept it to myself. Maybe silence was safer. But around midnight, my phone started lighting up. Missed calls, messages, comments. names I hadn't seen in months. I didn't open any of them, not yet. I just watched the screen flash and fade. Flash and fade. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. The first message I opened was from Aunt Lisa. She'd always been the one who sent birthday cards on time, who cut through family gossip with quiet facts. "I just read your post. I'm stunned. I'm so sorry I believed the worst." She didn't try to soften it, didn't blame confusion or say we just didn't know. Truth is, your mom's always had a way of adjusting the story when things didn't go her way. I guess none of us ever wanted to say it out loud. I hadn't realized how much I needed someone to say that, to name it, to stop pretending it was all just a misunderstanding. She ended with, "If you ever need a place for holidays, my door's open." After that, the silence started to shift. Cousin Caleb messaged me a day later. "We always knew something was off in the way she talked to you." He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. Some relatives never responded directly, but they started refollowing me. A few added heart reacts to my post. Nothing loud. Just quiet shifts. And it hit me how many people had seen things but stayed silent. How many had felt something wasn't right but didn't know what to do with it. It didn't erase the years. It didn't fix the hole. But it made me feel less alone in the remembering. I wasn't the only one who saw the cracks. I was just the first to speak. That morning, as I drank coffee on the floor of my apartment with my legs crossed beneath me, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt steadier. Like the ground beneath me had finally stopped moving. Rachel texted me 4 days after the post. Just a simple, "Can we meet somewhere?" We hadn't spoken since I left. Not really. A few short messages. A heart reaction when I shared my new place. Nothing more. We met at a small cafe near downtown, the kind with foggy windows and too many hanging plants. She was already there when I arrived, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug. "Hey," she said, like we'd just seen each other last week. I sat down across from her. The silence stretched not heavy, just unsure. She looked tired, paler than I remembered. Then she started talking. Things had gotten worse at the house. Without me covering the rent, Mom had started missing payments. The power had been shut off for a full day before she scraped together enough to get it back. She'd tried asking Grandma for money, but Grandma said no. Said she was tired of enabling. Rachel said Mom had been spiraling short-tempered paranoid, blaming everyone but herself. And then she paused, looked down at her hands. "I used to think you were overreacting," she said. "I told myself you were too sensitive. Or maybe just tired." But watching her now, she shook her head. "You did the right thing by leaving," she said. "You should have left sooner." I didn't answer right away. There was a lump in my throat I didn't know how to speak around. Hearing those words from the only other person who knew what that house really felt like was like someone unlocking a door I hadn't realized I was still pushing against. She said she wanted to leave too, when she could afford it. I told her I couldn't offer money, but when she was ready, truly ready, I'd help however I could. I wasn't going to let her fall. Not like I had. She showed up without warning. It was a Tuesday, late afternoon. I was still in sweatpants folding laundry when I heard the knock. I opened the door halfway. She stood there. Darlene, my mother, with a plastic bakery box in her hands. A pie store bought the label still curling at the edges. Her smile was tight, unfamiliar. "Thought I'd stop by," she said. "Maybe we could have dinner sometime, talk." I didn't move. "Things haven't been the same," she added. "I miss you." I leaned against the frame, arms crossed to the cold from the hallway creeping into my toes. "Are you here to apologize?" I asked. She blinked, hesitated. "I don't think I need to," she said slowly. "I think we both made mistakes. That was it. No acknowledgement, no clarity. Just the same vague balancing act she always leaned on. If we're both wrong, then no one has to be responsible." I looked at the pie, at her fingers tightening on the plastic rim. "I wish you well," I said quietly. Then I stepped out, pulled the door gently behind me, and left her standing in the hallway. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't tell her what she'd done. I didn't take the pie. I didn't need to. The moment had already passed. It's been a few months. The apartment still smells like new paint and store-brand candles, but it's starting to feel like mine. I bought a lamp with a soft gold shade, a rug that doesn't quite match the couch but makes the room warmer. I hung a small framed print above the kitchen sink, 3 pairs on a table, nothing special. But it makes me smile every time I see it. There's quiet here. Not the kind that punishes, but the kind that settles. I play music out loud now. I talk on the phone without whispering. I sleep through the night. Rachel comes by sometimes. We sit by the window with our coffee trading updates. She's saving, looking at listings. She says it out loud now when I move out, not if. I don't ask about the house. She doesn't offer much. That's okay. The post I wrote is still up. I never deleted it, not out of spite, not to prove anything, just to make space for the truth. If she sees it as betrayal, that's her choice. The real betrayal was quieter, slower, served between sips of wine and slices of pie. I don't miss the house. I miss what I used to think it could be. But I've stopped waiting for it to become that. Now I water my plants. I answer messages when I feel like it. I live without holding my breath. And when I think back to that last knock at my door, I don't feel anger. I just remember the way the handle felt when I closed it. Not hard, not rushed, just final. You don't have to tell the whole story. Just leave a single dot if you ever walked away from a place called home and no one asked why.